I woke up before dawn as I always did, with the house plunged into an uncomfortable silence, broken only by the cries of the babies still sleeping or by my sister's heavy snoring in the room next door. My eyes scanned the disaster. Dirty dishes piled up in the kitchen, toys scattered all over the floor, clothes that seemed to multiply on their own. I picked up a cup of coffee that was already cold inside. Again, another identical morning. Another battle that no one else seemed to notice. As I was serving breakfast, I heard her coming down the stairs, humming a song I couldn't remember. Her steps were light, carefree, and my heart sank. I didn't understand how she could live so oblivious to the chaos she left behind. Before I could even greet her, she dropped the news with a smile that seemed to light up the room. "I'm pregnant again. It'll be our 5th baby." I felt a profound emptiness. My brain took a moment to process what I had just heard. 5 children I had helped raise. 5 lives that had absorbed my every minute, every dream, and every sacrifice. The memory of sleepless nights, of changed diapers, of arguments with her partner and with herself, flooded me with frustration and pain. This time I couldn't take it anymore. This time I couldn't be the savior of her irresponsibility. I tried to smile, to congratulate her, but the words got stuck in my throat. She noticed my silence and her smile faded a little, confused. "Are you okay?" she asked, leaning toward me with feigned innocence. "Yes, I just need a minute," I managed to say as I felt a mixture of sadness and rage coursing through my body. I sat down in a kitchen chair and looked at my reflection in the window. I didn't recognize the person who had ceased to exist to make way for someone who only knew sacrifice and resignation. My dreams had been trapped between diapers and sleepless nights. My plans were crushed under the mountain of her family's needs. For years I had been the refuge, the support, the voice of reason she never wanted to hear, and each announcement of a new pregnancy reminded me that my freedom was just a distant concept. That night, after a silent dinner, I made a decision that had been maturing inside me for a long time. With trembling hands, I began to pack a suitcase. Only the essentials, only what I needed to rebuild my life far from the manipulation and chaos. I left a note on the kitchen table. "I can't keep raising what should be your responsibility. It hurts me, but I need to live my own life. I hope one day you understand." When I closed the door behind me, the cold night air hit me like both a bomb and a challenge. For the first time in years, I felt I was taking control of my destiny. But as I walked toward my car, my phone vibrated with a message that froze my blood. "Call from the police department. Your sister says you took her son." My heart lurched. Everything I had planned, all my courage, was about to be tested in a way I had never imagined. When I arrived at the police station, the atmosphere was cold and strange, as if the very air were judging my presence. They made me wait on a hard chair while I heard voices and footsteps echoing in the hallways. It all seemed unreal. How could my own sister, my own blood, someone who should know me better than anyone, accuse me of something so terrible? Every minute that passed, my mind reeled, remembering every sacrifice, every moment I had set my dreams aside for her children, only for her to now paint me as the villain of her story. The interrogation was a whirlwind of rapid-fire questions and suspicious glances. I felt trapped like a cornered animal. I tried to explain the truth, to tell them that I never took any of her children, that I had only decided to leave to get my life back, but the words seemed to bounce off invisible walls. The police listened to her sweet and convincing voice, and I felt how every sentence she spoke undermined my credibility. "She just always helps too much," some officers whispered, but no one seemed to really want to listen to me. My family was also drawn into the turmoil. Some of my siblings were doubtful, confused by her version of events. Others sent me messages filled with worry and distrust. It pained me to see how my own flesh and blood could waver between love and doubt. Every memory of sleepless nights, of borrowed money, of broken promises, hit me with force, reminding me that betrayal doesn't always come from unknown enemies, but from those who are supposed to be by your side. In the midst of the confusion, I realized that my sister had built an army of manipulation. Every smile, every feigned tear, every carefully calculated word, had a single purpose: to make me feel guilty, to make me look like the one responsible for everything. The truth became an invisible prison, and my desperation grew with each incredulous look. In the end, they released me temporarily, but with restrictions that felt like chains. I couldn't go near her house or her children or even speak to them. The feeling of helplessness filled me with rage and sadness. For the first time, I understood that my unconditional love had been used against me. The idea of revenge, once just a fleeting thought, began to take clear shape. I couldn't let her continue to manipulate me and destroy my life while I remained silent. As I walked out of the station into the rain, I felt a strange mix of relief and determination. My sister's betrayal had not only hurt me deeply, but it had also ignited a fire within me. I knew I had to act with intelligence, with patience, and that the path to my justice would not be easy. Every step I took away from the city was a step toward my freedom, and at the same time, toward the silent strategy that was beginning to form in my mind. This time I wouldn't just defend myself. I would learn to balance the scales of her deceit. I left the city behind me with a heart heavy with mixed emotions. The freedom I felt in getting away from it all was sweet, but it was also tinged with pain. Every street, every corner I left behind reminded me of the sacrifices I had made. The sleepless nights, the tears I had comforted, the broken promises. However, for the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling the constant pressure of her chaos. I felt small and immense at the same time. Small in the face of all I had lost, yet immense because I was finally taking the reins of my life. At first, the days were difficult. The loneliness was heavy, and nostalgia tried to convince me to go back. But every time I remembered how she had manipulated me, how she had turned my love into a weapon against me, my determination grew stronger. I focused on rebuilding my world. A modest apartment, a job that gave me back my independence, and a personal space where I could cry, think, and plan without being judged. Every action was a step toward recovering my identity, the one I had lost by taking care of everyone but myself. With time, the idea of revenge began to take shape. I wasn't seeking to destroy her physically. I didn't need to humiliate her with violence. What I wanted was to expose the truth, to show her and the world the reality of her manipulations. I began to gather evidence. Text messages, emails, financial records, anything that proved she had used my love and sacrifice for her own benefit. Each document was a reminder of the stolen years, but also a powerful tool that would bring me justice. While I collected evidence, I also learned to take care of myself. I went to therapy, revisited old passions I had abandoned, and discovered the strength I had forgotten I possessed. The sadness and anger turned into fuel for my strategy, a constant reminder that patience would be my best ally. Every step I took was measured, calculated like a piece on a chessboard I was beginning to master. One day, I received an anonymous message that made me shudder. It said my sister was planning to take possession of something very important of mine, something that had taken years to build. My heart raced, but instead of panicking, I took a deep breath. I knew I had to wait, observe, and act intelligently. Any false move could ruin everything I had achieved. That night, as I looked at the city lights from my window, I understood that this wasn't just about getting revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity and protecting my future. Sitting there, surrounded by documents and memories, I understood that my revenge would be silent but devastating. I didn't need to scream or demand justice. The truth, if presented calmly and precisely, would speak for itself. For the first time in my life, I felt like the master of my own destiny. Every tear shed, every sleepless night, and every sacrifice had been lessons preparing me for this moment. My sister thought she could manipulate me forever, but she was wrong. This time I would control the story. The day of the confrontation arrived without announcements or drama. There were no preliminary screams or warnings. I showed up calmly with a serenity I didn't even know I possessed. My sister looked at me as if she still believed she was in control, as if I were still the same person who always ran to rescue her. But something in my eyes must have given me away, because her uncertain smile slowly faded. I began by speaking slowly without direct reproaches, just laying out facts. I showed her old messages where she admitted I was taking care of her children while she disappeared for days. I pointed out bank transfers, conversations with family members, emails where she asked me to lie for her. Each piece of evidence landed like a heavy stone in the silence that had settled between us. She tried to interrupt me, to justify herself, to cry, but this time I didn't give in. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't apologize, I just continued. When she finally understood that she could no longer manipulate me, she went on the attack. She accused me of being cold, of having abandoned her, of not understanding how difficult her life was. I listened without interrupting, and when she was finished, I answered her with the simplest and most painful truth, that I had been her support for years, that I loved her, and that using the police to destroy me had been the final betrayal. Her eyes filled with fear, not guilt, and that confirmed everything for me. The revenge was not a public scandal or a direct humiliation. It was legal, clear, and definitive. I presented all the documentation to the proper authorities, not to punish her, but to protect myself. The truth came to light, and with it her lies collapsed. The restrictions that had been placed on me were lifted, and the consequences began to catch up with her. For the first time, she had to face the responsibility of her own actions without someone else cleaning up the mess. As she dealt with the weight of her own reality, I felt something I didn't expect. Peace. Not joy, not cruel satisfaction, but a profound tranquility. I understood that true revenge wasn't watching her suffer, but seeing myself free from the guilt, the fear, the constant obligation to save someone who never wanted to change. I walked away without saying goodbye, not because it didn't hurt, but because there was nothing more that needed to be said. The relationship was broken, not by my decision to leave, but by her choice to betray me. I walked toward a new stage of my life with the certainty that I had reclaimed my dignity. That night when I got home, I looked at my reflection in the mirror and smiled for the first time in a long time. I was no longer the shadow living for someone else. I was someone whole, someone who had survived the most painful betrayal and had come out stronger. My story didn't end with her downfall, but with my rebirth. And that, I knew then, was the sweetest revenge of all.